Hey everyone, it's Paula Brown, President of Americans for Homeopathy Choice. I'm so excited to be kicking off today's pledge drive. I have some awesome speakers. Some people that we've been interviewing this whole week have been so inspiring, but this crowd today, everyone speaking, is near and dear to my heart because they are part of the team that has been working so hard for us to have access to homeopathic medicines. So without further ado, let me share my screen and talk a little bit about our pledge drive this year. Okay, here we go. I'm going to do it. And listen, if you're watching this, quickly take a moment to just hit the share button and invite other people to watch this pledge drive with us. We have a lot of fun. So our theme this year is Homeopathy Reboot, Nurturing Health Naturally from Farm to Congress. And our goal for the pledge drive is 45,000. Guys, I am really noticing that the economy is tight because this is the slowest we've ever crawled up that thermometer. And so I just want you guys to know, I know those of you who have donated have made a huge sacrifice to donate for us, and we are so thankful for you. I hope you know that any amount that you've given, even if you've given just $5, like it means the same, if not more, than someone who might have been giving us more, because I know that $5 means a lot. And so please do consider donating for us and help us reach our goal of 45,000. We'll continue kind of sending out emails moving forward as we after the pledge drive ends. But we would really hope and pray that you guys are able to donate and support us. We do this show really as a thank you to you, because we want you guys to know that it's not just giving the donations. We want you to kind of see inside Americans for Homeopathy Choice, see what we're doing, and look inside and then learn about homeopathy. So we hope that you're feeling loved and served from this pledge drive. Okay. So big shout out to all of our sponsors. We've got Miranda Castro, Homeopathy Center for Houston, National Center for Homeopathy, Karen Allen, American Academy of Clinical Homeopathy, Texas Society of Homeopaths, Council for Homeopathic Certification, Florida Homeopathic Society, International Academy of Classical Homeopathy. Thank you all so much for being donors to our effort. And then we're featuring today the Texas Society of Homeopathy, who has been donating to us. Thank you so much. And then the American Academy of Clinical Homeopathy. Big thank you for you guys for your donation. We so appreciate all that you guys do. Okay, just remember, Miranda Castro has a deal that she's giving us right now. If you buy anything from her shop and you kind of note something like AFHC or teeth or toothy or Paula Rock, she did that one. She's going to throw into your order her cell salt for bones, hair, nails, and teeth. And so, and then a proceed of all her purchases this week through the 30th are going to go to Americans for Homeopathy Choice. So Miranda, thank you so much. And then also we have day 4 raffle. I'll be announcing the winner of this raffle a little bit later today. Day 4 raffle is $120 value. You're going to get the AFHC mug. You're going to get all these awesome remedies, the complete homeopathy handbook by Miranda Castro. You're going to get that tin of where you can put some of your pellets in to make a spare remedy. You're going to get the documentary Magic Pills, because we think that documentary is awesome. And it talks about homeopathy as a kind of form of advocacy. And then you have a foldable little homeopathy storage case. So really great gift. Thank you so much, Michelle, for organizing all that. And then remember that our shop right now has a 10% off coupon, Reboot 2023, and everything in the shop is 10% off through the 30th as well. Same deadline as Miranda's thing. And we want to feature a t-shirt. This is the t-shirt, I'm a Momiopath, what's your superpower? So that's, one of the items that we have in our shop. We have a lot of homeopathy fashion. I'm wearing my Momiopath t-shirt right now. I love it. So, and we try and get like the soft t-shirts that aren't, super, what is it? Elementary school soccer team fabric, All right. Today we're talking to Laura Held and Kathy Diaz, and we're going to be talking about our work at Americans for Homeopathy Choice. And then tomorrow we're going to play that recording of Pat Arn. You guys should totally listen to it. It's a super fun thing. He's a farmer in Ireland, but because of the time zone, he couldn't come join us live. So we're playing that recording, but it'll release at the same time that we were supposed to go live. Okay. Let me tell you a little bit about these two awesome ladies. We've got Kathy. She's a wife, mother, grandmother, and a homemaker. She has a BA in history and an MA in social science education. But she believes her real education took place in raising and homeschooling her 4 children. Her latest and greatest passions are spending time with her grandkids, studying homeopathy, and blogging about faith and wellness topics at motheringstrength.com. Kathy, she's passionate about protecting her access to homeopathic medicines. She's been a volunteer for AFHC since 2018, which is basically that's when we started, right? And she currently serves as state captain coordinator for the whole homeopathy action team. That's why she's here with us. Then we have Laura. She's a wife, mom, home educator, and student of the Academy of Homeopathy Education. She's our grassroots director for AFHC Action. Laura is integral to the development and execution of the strategic plan of our outreach and our outreach to congressional offices, both through FHC leadership and the Grassroots Homeopathy Action Team, we call it HAT for short. So she previously worked for the Federal Reserve Board of Governors and was vital to the development of the U.S. currency education program and training domestic and global stakeholders for the launch of the new design of the $100 bill. So I think that's really cool. I got through that, you guys. I was kind of hiccuping a little bit. All right, Laura and Kathy, go ahead and turn on your cameras and unmute yourself, and we will be happy to talk. So we have a PowerPoint we have a presentation and slides that I can share, ladies. But did you guys want to say hello first?
Hello.
Are we going to do that first, or just do a little intro?
Yeah, let's do the little intro first. Yeah, talk a little bit about both of you guys and what you do at Homeopathy Choice and any other thoughts. We'll start with you, Laura, since you started.
Yeah, well, as Paula said, I'm the grassroots director, and we'll talk more about my role with primarily overseeing our homeopathy action team, which is our grassroots team that is building relationships with their congressional offices. And that's kind of what today is all about.
That's right. Yep. And then Kathy, go ahead and tell a little bit about you.
Thanks, Paula. I'm so glad to be here today. I am currently the HAT State Captain Coordinator. I work with the state captains across our country. I work with a lot of the volunteers and helping things to run smoothly with our HAT team. I've worn various hats to play on the words here, but Paula was my study group leader several years ago, and I was just learning about the amazing benefits of homeopathy when I found out that our access to homeopathic medicines was under threat. And so I remember when Paula organized us and said, we've got to do something. And I said, just tell me what to do. I'll do whatever we need to do. So I've done some other volunteer positions, but currently I'm working as the HAT State Captain Coordinator.
That's right. You've been faithful. I remember when we first started working with you, Kathy, you were like, Paula, I don't even really do homeopathy a lot. I'm like, oh, but you will. Don't worry. That'll come.
You can teach an old dog new tricks.
So I think we just wanted to jump in and give like a little introduction to, what like why homeopathy, right? I think we always have to ask ourselves the why. And so one of the stories that I share, with Congress even, is that homeopathy was a revelation to me. My brief story is just that I was healthy, and then I became very sick, profoundly sick from many years of antibiotic use. And ultimately what happened was I had an autoimmune disease of the bladder that was chronically bleeding, very, very painful condition. The options the doctors gave me were to have an opioid addiction and a bunch of other stuff I didn't want. And ultimately I turned all that down. And after years of searching, I found homeopathic medicines. What I found out after I was cured about, I would say about 11 years later, I found out that one of the drugs that I was supposed to have been on, that I would have been on for about 11 years, was causing women to go blind. And that was just like, that really brought it home to me when I realized, oh my goodness, we need access to this medicine, because the options that we have out there, we don't want to take them. Some people might want to take them, but we don't want to take them. I'm so glad I had that freedom to find and try homeopathy, and it ended up working for me. And it doesn't do any harm. It's safe. And so that's ultimately what we're here to protect, is our freedom. So Kathy, did you want to kind of share a little bit about your why?
Sure, I would be happy to. My why is really my granddaughter. I discovered homeopathy in a search to help her with a condition that she has that basically involves life-threatening food allergies. There really wasn't anything that conventional medicine could do, except perhaps an EpiPen if there was an allergic reaction. what I learned when I started studying homeopathy is that homeopathy really can help with symptoms as they present. And so as I was discovering ways to help her, I also, again, realized because Paula shared with our study group that we could lose these natural medicines that had been so helpful to her. So I was determined that I wouldn't let that happen without a fight. So whatever needed to be done, I would do. Amazingly, I've been able to talk to my congressional staff and explain to them the story and how important homeopathy is to my family, and particularly to my granddaughter. What I found is they can relate to that story. I even met a staffer whose own daughter has similar food allergies. I gave him my bumper sticker that day when we met, and he sent me a text message and showed me that he had placed my bumper sticker right next to the picture of his daughter, and the bumper sticker said, "I choose homeopathy." So it just has been just a wonderful opportunity to educate people about the benefits of homeopathy. And again, my why is I am determined that we are not going to lose this medicine. I have to protect it for my granddaughter and the rest of my family as well.
Yeah, that's right. And so, Laura knows better than all of us, our entire HAT team, we have our stories, we have our whys, and we bring that to Congress to talk. But why are we organized, Laura? Like, why are we here in the first place? Why are we advocating, right?
Yeah, so we'll get into more details a little bit later, but we just wanted to kind of give a brief introduction to this issue up front. And that is, homeopathic medicines have been around for over 200 years, and they have been, they were actually included in the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, a federal bill back in 1938 by a senator and homeopathic doctor named Royal Copeland, because he included them because he knew the importance of them and wanted people to have access to medicines that were, of high quality, made to certain standards. And so that's where the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of the United States was involved in setting those standards to make sure that people were getting access, what it said on the bottle was on the bottle, and you were getting a quality medicine. And so those were included in the act. And the FDA, as drug regulation went along, became more and more involved with drug regulation, but always treated homeopathic medicines differently. There's explicit statements along the way about their recognition of the uniqueness of homeopathic medicines and why they're not applying all of the same standards. They applied a lot of the same standards because, of course, there's just some baseline CGMP, current good manufacturing practice standards that we want. We don't want rats running around in any manufacturing facility. So basic, there's overlap, but there's also inherent differences as well. And so FDA took all of that into account. In 1988, they laid out, they had a policy document called CPG 400.400 that said, these are the conditions which you can manufacture and market your products in the United States. And that was kind of the guidebook for manufacturers. So they continued to treat them differently. And then all of a sudden in 2017, the FDA came out with this new policy guidance document, no longer a compliance document. Now it's called an enforcement document, because it's not telling you what to do to comply. It's telling you what we're going to do to enforce against this product class. And then it was finalized, that document was finalized in 2022. And basically, for the first time ever, the FDA said homeopathic medicines are unapproved new drugs that may not be legally marketed. We've never seen that language from the FDA before. It was a 180-degree shift from how they had treated homeopathic medicines in the past. And that's when Americans for Homeopathy Choice formed and jumped into action to make sure that we continue to have access.
Because ultimately, for me, like, the question I would ask myself is, why would Congress legalize homeopathic medicines as a federally recognized form of drug, only to allow FDA, with its left hand to say, but these can't be legally marketed? That seems to go against congressional intent. Why would Congress allow something only for FDA to kind of shut down any pathway for it to be sold and, well, marketed, right? Sold, but how do you sell something without marketing it, right? So it's kind of, it's very slippery. It's caused a lot of confusion in the marketplace and in the industry, and it's very concerning. So we're here because we have a solution and it's succeeding. You know, the HAT team, it stands for the Homeopathy Action Team. It's our grassroots team that's organizing all of this love and energy and passion about homeopathy. It's organizing it so that we will protect access to it. And like we were saying, Laura is our grassroots director and Kathy is one of our, is our HAT coordinator. So, you know, Kathy, like you were saying this a little bit earlier, becoming an advocate wasn't like the most natural thing for you, but you're easily one of our best. All of them are the best, right? But you love it now, and it's, you feel very differently about it.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's because it's all about relationship. At first, I was very apprehensive because I was picturing myself getting involved in politics, and I just didn't feel comfortable in that arena. I'm a mom, I'm a grandmother, I'm an educator. Those are things that I'm comfortable with. But getting involved with trying to affect policy and trying to convince politicians, you know, to see things my way just seemed really daunting and overwhelming. What I found was that it is much easier than I thought, because what we do is we build relationships. So I have met with 3 offices in my state, my US representative's office and both of my senator's offices. I actually was a part of the first year that we met Homeopathy on the Hill in DC. So I actually met them face to face. I began the relationship there. And as time went on, you know, Zoom became a thing. And so we've had more Zoom meetings now than personal meetings. But over time, I've actually built a first name basis relationship with these staffers. And I've even met with my US representative as well. So they know me, I know them, they know my story. And it's just like a relatable situation, human being to human being. And just a really cool evidence of how effective we have been in our strategy of building these relationships. Just recently, we had an ask for our offices, and that particular ask, I needed a signature from my congressman that day by 5 o'clock. And so I sent an email to my staffer, who I've been communicating with at least on a monthly basis for the last few years. And I told her I needed his signature on this letter by 5 p.m. By 2 o'clock that afternoon, I got an email from her, and she said the congressman signed the letter. How in the world was I able to get a congressman to sign a letter in a matter of hours? Well, it's because I had built that relationship and laid that foundation. And so it just goes to show you that, you know, just regular people, moms, grandmothers, you know, others who just are committed and kind and polite and persistent can really make a difference.
That's right. That's right. And Laura, you know, tell them about how it doesn't need to be scary, because you in particular have thought of every step for them.
Yeah, I mean, we've learned a lot along the years, and we've really kind of honed in our training program now. And so we guide you every step of the way. I mean, literally, we have a platform that we use that everyone gets on together called Basecamp. And we have training modules for each person who joins, and we literally break it up into bite-sized pieces. It looks like, you look at it and you're like, whoa, this is a lot, but we've really broken it up into those bite-sized pieces to make it doable. And really, there's not much. I mean, yes, it's not like it's a robotic thing at all. Like Kathy said, it's relationship building. So, you know, we're not trying to create robots out of this process by any means. But you don't have to have, like Kathy said, you don't have to have any background in lobbying or politics or anything like that. Even if you're just new to homeopathy and you don't have a story like Paola's, it's more about the dedication to the cause than it is having some amazing story when it comes to homeopathy.
Right. That's right. And, just so you guys know, everyone listening, our hat team is our most precious resource for homeopathy in the US. We had a really inspiring attorney for several years. His name was Jim Turner. And he says, we either have two things. There's two forms of currency in Congress. You either have people or you have money. And of course, money goes a long way if you have lots of it, but you have to have lots of it. But when there isn't a ton of money, you have to have people. And I think about Kathy's story about how that congressman sent in that signature by 2:00 that day. Usually it takes a lot of money to get a congressperson to do that, a high paying donor, something like that. But actually, Kathy, I don't think you've given any money.
I haven't. Just time, no money.
Unless you have deep pockets, I don't know about, and and it's not just Kathy. So many of us are getting these results. And so, people are a form of currency. It's time and energy. So we're doing this pledge drive because we do actually need money to run, on the shoestring budget that we run on. But really, this is about getting, if you have money, please do donate. But actually, we want you to give us your time, because we will organize it and potentize it and make it really powerful. So
what we're doing, I'll just add that what we're doing is very unique. Most organizations use lobbyists to do the kind of work we're doing. And I can see
Laura and I go ahead.
Well, I can see why they can do that, because it is difficult to get a large group together and keep them unified around a message. But we're doing it. I mean, we're doing it with all different walks of life. Like, it's homeopathy that brings everybody together, but we have people across the political spectrum, and that's reflected in the support that we've been getting over the years as well. And so it's really a very unique group in all sorts of ways.
I was just saying that technically Laura and I did have to register as lobbyists finally, because we've been doing, but Laura and I are like, oh my gosh, we're really not that kind of lobbyists. Like, we sure don't get paid like that. So I think it's funny. That when people ask me, do you guys have a lobbyist? I don't think they mean us. I think they mean something else. So, okay, let me go ahead and start sharing my screen. Well, actually, let's do a few of these slides. And we're going to kind of give you guys, what we're going to do, you guys, right now is we're going to open the doors and let you look inside the heart of Americans for Homeopathy Choice, which is the hat team. So we're going to go through, let's go through a few of them, and then we'll take a break and talk to our awesome, commercial break with Mary Beth. So, okay. Let's see here. I'm going to share my screen.
We're basically just going to do a little deeper dive on what we just talked about.
Yeah, exactly. So here's us. This is when we actually went to DC one of the times, and we went to the Samuel Hahnemann Monument, which is so beautiful, such a lovely place to go. So, okay, so this is Senator Royal Copeland, right, Laura, that you were talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting, actually. So when we consider the kind of the historical timeline of drug regulations, so like I had said earlier, homeopathic medicines were included in the definition of a drug in the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. But you have to rewind and go back to 1938, because people think, wait, what? Homeopathic medicines are a drug? That doesn't sound right. They shouldn't be considered a drug. But the landscape of drugs was very different back then. Yes, there were some what we consider pharmaceutical drugs out there, but not nearly what we have today. It was very, very different. And so when that act was put into place, there was actually the only requirement was that drugs be shown to be safe. And there was no intent to limit the individual's ability to self-prescribe anything. There was no such thing as prescription drugs. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea of where things were at in 1938, because there weren't that many drugs out there, and homeopathic medicines were still a big part of healthcare in the United States. And so this Senator Royal Copeland made sure to include them in the act, like we talked about, so that to make sure that people had access to quality medicines. So yeah, that's kind of where it started from a legal perspective. Of course, the history of homeopathy starts way before that. But when we're talking about the law and policy, that this is where it started.
And it makes it unique from, supplements and the laws that govern those. Because homeopathy,
yeah.
even though it's natural, it is a drug. So it kind of put this in a different place, legally speaking. So then we've got this fun policy document. Do you want me to talk a little bit about this one, Laura, or Kathy? I mean, feel free to jump in, ladies.
Yeah. So essentially, as I said, drug regulation over the course of between 1938 and now, especially starting in the 60s, there was a new change to the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act that required not just proof of safety, but also proof of efficacy. And homeopathic medicines were not, that was not applied to homeopathic medicines because, as we all know, the way that homeopathic medicines work is very different from pharmaceutical drugs. And with the level, it was really to show that the benefits outweighed the risks. While the risks are so low when you're talking about a properly manufactured and labeled and administered homeopathic medicine, that it didn't make sense to apply those new amendments to homeopathic medicine. So the FDA explicitly in the past has said that the law did not apply, that new law did not apply to homeopathic medicines. And then they started coming out with more and more, again, as the pharmaceutical industry grew to meet, and more issues were arising, current good manufacturing practices, labeling requirements, those types of things developed over the course of the next several decades. And oftentimes, as a result, oftentimes because of the American Institute of Homeopathy commenting and saying, okay, you're coming out with this new regulation and it doesn't make sense for homeopathic medicines, FDA would say, oh yeah, you're right. And they would, like, for example, final product testing doesn't make sense for most potencies of homeopathic medicine.
That means like, if you're going to make Tylenol, they're able to like, okay, let's chemically test and make sure that the Tylenol recipe you were supposed to make is actually there. And that makes sense. Like, you don't want them to, and they want to test for, contamination and stuff. And so what they try to do to a lot of companies is say, okay, well, now you have to test. And the companies don't mind, like, you can test the water, make sure it's not contaminated and it's clean. We can test what's testable, but they're saying, but how am I going to test Arnica 30C or 200C when you can't test that? It's not testable. And so they're just applying all of these drug rules that historically FDA always knew was designed for drugs. They're applying it to homeopathy. And so that's a good example, Laura. I like.
Well, they are now, but they didn't.
They are now. They didn't always.
They didn't always. They recognized the uniqueness and responded positively when they got feedback from the homeopathic community. But that has since changed. Now we're in a position where they say a drug is a drug and all of the same regulations apply. Every last bit of CGMP labeling, approval, it all applies. You're only on the market now. You're illegally on the market, and we can take you off the market whenever we want to. Is the FDA going to take all homeopathic medicines off the market at one time? No. But as we have been seeing recently, you don't know what it's going to be and when it's going to be.
Well, it's not even so much, the question so much isn't which ones are they going to take off? How many are they going to take off at once? Like people ask us that question, like, that's the wrong question. The question is, why in the world do you think you can just pull it off whenever you feel like it? That's the problem, right? Because then FDA can just, it's just up to them. And that's right, where we're at right now. And that's what we've always said is we're not okay with that. That's not the way it was intended. And that's not the way it should be. So
yeah, that's not sustainable. That's not a sustainable way for businesses to operate. There's obviously a lot of, and we'll get more into that, the issues with this new interpretation. But I just want to share a recent example of what we're talking about. So, and Kathy, I know this has affected your family. Sure. So, the guidance that Paula just showed a little screenshot of, A lot of people say, well, they're just laying out these risk categories and they're going to leave the rest alone. But the problem is one of the many problems, the risk categories are so broad, so vague. They make no distinction between products that meet all the standards that have been in place for all these years and those that don't. And so the most recent example of FDA action against homeopathic medicines are eye products. And that includes a product that a member of Kathy's family uses and now will no longer have access to, even though there was no evidence of manufacturing labeling problems. These have been safely used for many years.
Right. This is already affecting me personally because homeopathy is very individualized. So we need the full range of homeopathic medicines to remain available. You don't know which medicine is going to be required. So for instance, my mom, who has macular degeneration, has relied on a certain brand of eye drops that are homeopathic. She uses them for maintenance, and then she also uses them before and after a procedure that she has to have on a regular basis. We've discussed it with her doctor, and he's been completely supportive and has said, you know, if this is working for you, use it by all means. That's great. So her doctor is great with it. My mom is great with it. And now suddenly it's going to be removed from the market with no safety issues, no evidence of harm or any reason why it should be removed. That is the particular homeopathic medicine that is helping my mom. Why would they take that away when there's no evidence of harm or any problem with the medicine whatsoever? So this is already affecting us.
Mm-hmm.
And we've said before, like, you know, our goal is a full range of homeopathic medicines. We're not going to be satisfied with just a few of them. And, you know, the exercise that you can do is try and find the top 100 remedy kit. Those used to be readily available from many places. It's a lot harder to find. I just found out just the other day that Miranda Castro still sells like a 98 remedy kit for you to put 3 of your own remedies in there. But I just feel like, yeah, it's so important and it is harder to find. And this is just a symptom of these manufacturers either having a hard time just keeping up, and so many guys, if I could just open up and show you, so many of these manufacturers have thinned out products. Well, this isn't a top seller, it just doesn't make sense for me to keep selling anymore. And it's like no, I hope you all know how much it costs for them to make one batch. And so what's interesting in homeopathy, and Robert says this, is we are lots of batches, small batches. A big pharma manufacturer makes one giant batch of one drug, done, you know, all the paperwork they have to file for that drug, all of the steps, all of the procedures, all of the like everything. But for homeopathy, they have to do that very expensive process, hopefully 2,000 times, so that we can, and for every potency. It's not even just the arnica remedies, it's arnica 30C, arnica 200, like every single one. So it's very expensive. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Especially for those single medicine manufacturers that are producing such a large amount in small quantities. Yeah.
Exactly. So let's do a couple more slides and then we're going to take a break here.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, the new policy states, this is a direct quote from the guidance. However, this guidance is intended to provide notice that any homeopathic drug product that is being marketed illegally is subject to FDA enforcement action at any time. They've actually, in recent, just last month, responded to a citizen petition that a company put in back in 2016. So it took them a little while, but they finally responded, and they doubled down on the statement. They actually said homeopathic drug products are unapproved new drugs that may not be legally marketed. So they're saying this is saying the same thing, just in different words. And yeah, it's, as we've talked about, puts homeopathic medicines into a position where they can just be removed from the market at any time, without proof of any issue with the manufacturing of those products.
And just keep in mind, that's not a law. That's just a new policy position. And I think it's important to remember that, because we don't want to give a statement like that the weight of law from our treatment of it. It's just their policy position. This is very changeable, and this is not something that we think FDA can do. So
Yeah, it's a clear shift in their interpretation of the law.
my internet is being unstable for a second. Sorry about that. Okay, so one of our successes, one of our goals, sorry, my internet kind of got a little unstable there, is that we were able to slow the finalization of this guidance. And our goal in slowing that finalization was, okay, let's grow our support. Let's get ready. Let's organize our troops and get ready. And so that was I think a big success that we had. And the agency did say the agency anticipates that many drug products will fall outside of the categories of the drug products that FDA intends to prioritize enforcement action from. And, we like to say, like, what does that mean? It's almost like they're trying to placate us a little bit here. And they're saying like, oh, we think most of them will be fine. And then we're like, okay, well, we don't want
not most, many.
That's right. Many will, I keep saying most because I want it to be most, but many will. I'm like, well, okay, I have a family, I have family that has like a bunch of kids, like they have many children, 11 children, many 11, like, what does that even mean? And so we just don't feel comfortable with, our relationship as citizens is to push back against the government, and we need to check them and balance them. I always like to say, who has the power in our government? And it's the people. The people have the power in our government, and that means we have to step up and we have to do our part. So when we come back, I'm going to bring Mary Beth on. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the actual impacts. We're going to talk about the actual tangible impacts that we've been seeing, and we're going to give a specific example to do that. So Laura and Kathy, go ahead and turn off your cameras. I'm going to go ahead and bring Mary Beth on and introduce her in a minute. But actually, Mary Beth, hang on one second because I want to review for people who've just joined us. So hang on one second, Mary Beth. Sorry about that. We are going to just kind of review some of our, what's going on for our pledge drive and what our theme is this year and what's coming up tomorrow. And then I'm also going to announce the winner because Michelle has been able to do that. So here we go. Our theme this year for our pledge drive is, is Homeopathy Reboot, Nurturing Health Naturally from Farm to Congress. So every day of the pledge drive, we like to give away a prize. And so Michelle has been looking at people who donated all the way up until now, and this person is going to get and that winner, let me see if I can, oh my gosh, my internet's being silly. That winner is Pat Caulfield. Yay, Pat, I'm so excited for you. Okay, so if you are Pat Caulfield, go ahead and email us at bearpack@homeopathychoice.org because Michelle will be sending you your prize, and you get to just provide her your mailing address and she'll send it over. And a big thank you to our pledge drive sponsor, Texas Society of Homeopathy. So that's awesome, guys. This is a pledge drive. We are fundraising, and so help us get to our $45,000 goal. We are at 13,000 right now. We're just kind of inching up that thermometer. And also another way to help is by joining our Bear Pack. So we like calling our Bear Pack by that name because homeopathy is how we take care of our kids and our family members and people who are precious to us. And so we say that, protecting homeopathy is kind of like being a mama bear that protects our kids, because that is how we take care of our kids and our babies and our grandkids. So if you become a member of the Bear Pack, you're donating $25 a month every month, and you're part of a very important group of people who is helping sustain and support our work at Americans for Homeopathy Choice. Also, we've been talking about the Homeopathy Action Team. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. You can enroll in through October 8th. We only open the Homeopathy Action Team a couple of times a year. Usually just once, and we might open it up again, but usually it's just once. And so you can join by going to homeopathychoice.org. You can do that full URL or just do /HAT, HAT, and that'll take you to this URL. And there you can register. We have an amazing structure that we're going to be talking about later on the show, but that is, I wanted to let you guys know. So please do consider donating. And if you can't donate, become a member of the HAT team or do both. That would be even better. So okay, Mary Beth, now I'm ready. I'm so sorry about that. Go ahead and turn on your video and say hello. Hi, Mary Beth.
Hi, Paula.
How are you?
Good. You having a good day?
Good. So glad to
Yeah.
have you here with us. Tell them a little bit about your role on the hat team, because you are one of our precious hat members.
Well, thanks, Paula and Laura and Kathy and everybody else that's a volunteer for doing all this. And it's been such a positive experience overall. So yeah, I'm a congressional lead. I joined last year. So it's hard to believe it's been a year in my district in Utah, 2nd district.
Awesome.
And it's really been interesting. We have a great team, state captain, name drop, but and then also just getting to know we have a small team in our state. There's 5 of us total. So it's been like a wonderful, like getting new friends, and we meet. Yeah. So it's been like, they're all like sisters or brothers in arms, in this cause. And, we're from all different backgrounds. So it's been a really positive.
It is true. I've traveled a lot I mentioned this before, and I've tried to make time to visit with the hat members in those local areas.
Mhm.
It is like meeting family and like instant friends. You have instant friends because you guys are working together and towards this common cause, and it kind of binds you together as a family, even, and you don't agree with everyone in your family on everything, but you do kind of come together around this central idea. So Mary Beth, do you feel like, why do you feel like it's so important to do this? Because it is a commitment for your time, not a ton after the training's done, but it is a commitment.
It is. I mean, in the beginning, it is certainly a learning curve, to understand. I mean, like the modules, it looks like you get a whole bunch at once, but as Laura said, they really are described well and parsed out, and everyone, like, they're available for help. There's open office hours, there's questions, and then you have your state captain who, ours has been great. And then just the encouragement that, just that you're joining this together. So my why, I guess, is I'm a veterinary practitioner, so I treat animal patients, and I of course went through regular vet school because that's not part of the veterinary school program, but I kind of hit a part of my career where I just wasn't helping my patients with allopathic medicine. But I have a little bit of a story, like a little bit similar to Brenda Placentia. In my family, I have history. I wasn't directly raised with homeopathy, although I knew about it. But my grandfather and my great grandfather were homeopathic physicians, and and 4 other male relatives of those generations and into the 19th century. Now I knew that, but I didn't have any really appreciation of it until I started to study with Dr. Richard Pickering's group over 20 years ago. And then it was just sort of like, it just clicked. And, knowing that, and then that we have even my grandfather's and my great uncle's kits in my family, they're over 100 years old. So
Mary Beth, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's really a legacy, and I feel so lucky to know that now. And it's like I can appreciate it finally. And it's like, so that was the thing that I thought when I saw this going on, and it took me a while to kind of get out of my complacency thing, because I was focused on practice, and I, just every day, it's a lot of work, and, you're treating the individual. It takes a lot to unravel these cases. I deal with a lot of chronic disease. And so when we started to learn about, I didn't even know what a draft guidance was. I didn't know anything about the FDA, but I was just, when I really started to hear it, I was like really frustrated and angry. And I was like, we could lose. It just finally, it was like, this is going to happen. We're going to lose access. And it made me mad. And so it was a way to channel that way to be part of the change.
Yep.
And even though didn't know what that was about, it was just like, I don't want anything to do with political system. That was my thought. But then it was like, well, this is how we have to do something.
Yep.
And, and I was at a place, in my practice, that I could work with that. And I just felt like that's the least I could do. And and luckily I can, share with my sister is, she's a homeopathic mom and, everything. And my aunt and other family members. And, but it was just sort of like, this is really real after 200 years. And then my relatives practicing this way, and I'm sure, when Brenda explained that, it's really different in Mexico and probably in lots of parts of Europe, maybe, but it's changing in India. It's changing all over the world.
Yeah, that's right.
Things
Well, I
shift.
didn't think it was possible, Mary Beth, for me to like a member of the Hat team more. But knowing your story, that's so cool. I've heard of people who have, they do their family history or whatever, and they realize that that's so cool.
Well, it's really wonderful. I mean, I didn't grasp it. I mean, my mom knew about it, and I know probably as kids we were treated with something, it just wasn't what happened. It was my mother's father, who was the medical doctor, that the one that graduated in the late 20s. He was the last, plus my great uncle and his brother-in-law. They all went to Hahnemann Medical School in Philadelphia. So, and then the ones before that did too, and into the Civil War times. So, I mean, it's amazing I even know that. But and it's in because homeopaths are good documenters. It's in there are history books. There are some mentions of them in some of the recorded history. But I know my mom really appreciated it, but she didn't practice it, and so it sort of skipped a generation. And then when I was aware of the course, I was like, well, let's just see what this is about. And I kind of knew like treats like, but I had no idea until I started to use it. And then, my, my own health, it's just changed everything.
Right. That's right.
And then, just to see animals respond. Right. So, I know I have, yeah, right. I have homeopathic colleagues in this wonderful hat group, and, it's sort of like treating children, right? We can't ask them the sensations, right? So you have to really observe. Of course, you have to ask the client, you have a relationship with the client. You're really getting information from the client for the most part, plus your observation of the physical exam. But it's been an amazing journey to see when you see chronic, treat everything, turn around if it can. There are animals that are so far gone, but their life can be improved.
Right. Even then.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Mary Beth, I think you're so awesome. That was fun. That was really cool to hear.
Well, thanks, Paula. I mean, you have such good energy with all this, and everybody else I've been watching the programs. I'm like, wow, finally got to see Miranda and, meet Brenda and Sue Meyer and Kathy and Laura and, and all the other volunteers as state captain. I mean, it's just been really cool to see how many people are affected with homeopathy. I can be kind of in my own bubble, so.
I know it. I wish I could be in my own bubble sometimes.
I know. we need that sometimes.
Yeah, we do. We need that sometimes. But
yeah,
it's so great to hear from you. I love everything you said and your thoughts. And guys, I hope that's all it takes is for you guys to be like, I think I can help, or I think I'm mad enough to help.
It was that for me. It was like, okay, it's not going to be good to be mad. So, but you were giving what you did. You gave us a way to get on, but it's been amazing. I mean, I'm amazed at how it's been organized.
Yeah.
And then, so, we had in my district, I had the representative resign this year, and it's all of a sudden we have a special election in the state. So it's like interesting to get into see what's going on. And I've been able to, go to the meet and greets for the new candidates. Now, who knows? It was a good practice. It was a way to.
Did you meet my mom? Did you get to meet my mom? Were you there?
No, I'm not. I'm very much in the southwest part of the state. I'm not even near them, which is like, it's a good thing we have Zoom, right?
Right,
So,
exactly.
I mean, I wish I was like, I wanted to drive up there, but it's 300 miles away.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, my mom was living in Utah at the time.
Yeah.
And we did an action alert, and they all went to meet
Right.
their. When my mom went.
Yeah. Tiffany told me that.
And she sure did,
He's,
she's great.
he's awesome.
Yeah, but she did. So I was like, all right, Mom, you did good.
Yeah.
But you can't tell her that, because then she'll just keep, the next time she's more bold.
Yeah.
But she's moved. She's back in Brazil now. So.
Oh, she is. Oh, good.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, but that's so great. I love you. Well, thank you so much, Mary Beth. You're welcome to stay here in the Zoom room and continue listening if you want, or if you've got to run, that's fine. But guys, everyone give a shout out to Mary Beth in the comments. Thank you so much for being with us. And I just loved your story and hearing from your heart. It was perfect. Boy, the sun is really coming out.
Oh, you've got a beam, right? It's like,
Yeah.
the light is right there. It's great. It's
You
like,
might-
shine on.
That's
Yeah.
right. Okay, well, thank you, Mary Beth. Go
All
ahead
right, thank you, Paula.
and turn off your video there. Okay, Kathy, Laura, we're back with you ladies. I'm going to turn on our presentation again, and we can talk a little bit about Medi Natura and yeah, what is going on with all of that. Medi Natura is something we've talked a lot about. I'm going to move, guys, so that this light doesn't like give you guys a headache.
We're talking about the impacts overall, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so I like to look at this as, okay, there's the FDA and their new interpretation of the law that homeopathic drug products are unapproved new drugs that may not be legally marketed. And so there's things that the FDA can do with that and have done. They've blocked products at the border. They've taken action against these eye products that we just talked about. They're no longer making any distinctions when it comes to CGMP. But then there's the ripple effect too, that we haven't talked about yet. And in some ways, it's not so much the FDA's actions, it's their interpretation of the law and the ripple effect that is more of an issue. And so that has come in the form of lawsuits. Actually, there was just a new one that came out yesterday or the day before, because now, these frivolous lawsuits, you have these attorneys that jump on an opportunity to say, oh, these products are illegally marketed. Let me grab some.
And that's the nature of the lawsuit. They're saying, how dare you sell me something that's illegally marketed? We're going to sue you for that. And so the FDA has created this environment where they're like, we're not going to say it's illegal. We're not going to rip it off the market. But we said in a meeting to them, your policy is going to trigger frivolous lawsuits. And they said, oh, no, it's not. I mean, that's basically what they said to us in the meeting. You were there, Laura. And yet, what is happening?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's a huge threat, because regardless of the, how these lawsuits are, obviously we refute the nature of them. But regardless, companies have to spend time and money to respond to them, regardless of the merits of the lawsuit. And so that's a big problem with the FDA. And they're not, I wouldn't say they're especially with this recent response to that citizen petition, Paula, they're being very clear. They're saying these products may not be legally marketed.
Yep.
And so we expect more of these lawsuits to continue as long as that's the FDA's interpretation of the law.
Yep.
And then of course that creates a lot of uncertainty in the marketplace for retailers, like, oh, should we be carrying these unapproved new drugs? Some of the big retailers use this certification system that kind of vets products, like, are they complying with all the regulations and so forth? And that certification company was going to pull their certification of all homeopathic drug products, because they're like, well, we can't certify illegally marketed products. And so we were able, through one of our attorneys, to get a hold on that for now. But this guidance was only finalized in December, so I think the ripple effect the full ripple effect is yet to be seen.
That's right. Exactly. Now we do want to kind of give you guys a progress report, because I think it's important for you guys to know the full breadth of the situation that we have. But we've been doing a lot of good. We have grown our membership to over 120,000. We have sent over 158,000 comments to the FDA. When Congress looks at an organization, they do care about numbers, because I think how many voters are a part of this. And so I think it's very important to keep growing. And then we've sent over 500,000 messages to federal officials between 2020 and 2022. And that's solid, guys. That is a good, step forward. And then Other things that we've done, we sent a bipartisan letter of 25 members of Congress to FDA, and the letter essentially said, what is the pathway that you guys are outlining for these medicines to enter the market? Like they need a pathway. So
It was stronger than that.
yeah, go ahead.
You downplay it. They said, we have set forth a path in the law. How are you going to adhere to that framework and ensure that consumers have access to these medicines?
And it was signed by 13 Republicans, 12 Democrats, House and Senate, beautifully bipartisan. And that's exactly what we love about that. We've had multiple FDA meetings. We have, of course, that we organize our grassroots team, which we've been talking about. We have an amazing legal team. We have a really excellent historical timeline review that you can get on our blog that talks about the history of how homeopathy was treated in the United States. And then we also, submitted a Maris poll, which is an official poll that talked about how this was a really cool project because it talked about, well, we worked with organizations and we did it as a coalition, but that Maris poll said that people do vote based on whether or not their representative supports their access to natural medicine, including homeopathic medicines. And that was the same, it was consistent across party lines. It was consistent across gender, age, and it's like everybody wants this. And we thought that was a really strong message. So let's kind of shift in now to the HAT team. And this is where we're going to hear a little bit more from Kathy as well. Kathy, do you want to describe the different congressional or the different roles we have on the HAT team? We have the congressional lead, we have the state captain, because you really coordinate with a lot of them.
Sure, I would be happy to. So we basically have two roles on the HAT team. We have the congressional lead, and the congressional lead works individually or as a small team. And their primary goal is to build a relationship with their legislator's office. We hold their hand every step of the way. We provide a step-by-step seamless training. As you're listening to Laura give the history and Paola and Laura discuss the ins and outs of policy, how it's come to be and where we are now and all of those things, that may overwhelm you. I know it does me, but thankfully we have it all written out in talking points. And I'll tell you that when you're in your meeting and you're talking to your staffer and you're explaining some of these things, it is completely okay to say, I'm using my notes, because they're actually taking notes as well. And so we go through point by point. We use these wonderful talking points with extremely well-written notes. And then when you're sharing your story and just talking about why this is so important, of course, you just speak from the heart. So that being said, we train you and we empower you to be able to have these meetings with your congressional staff. And what happens is you create a local network of homeopathy stakeholders in your district by reaching out to your community. And this, as you can read here, it amplifies our message and potentizes our grassroots advocacy efforts. So for congressional leads, the average time is about 1 to 2 hours a week during the first 6 months, because that involves your training. And then after that, about just 1 to 2 hours a month. And it really slows down once we have our meetings, and you're basically just doing follow-up and keeping your communications going. The other role that we have is the state captain role. And the state captain is, pretty self-explanatory. We have sometimes 2 state captains, and they work together as co-captains. And the state captain or the co-captains help organize and train their team. And they basically guide the congressional leads through the AFHC's training program. They help answer questions and guide them and give direction and ongoing support to help the congressional leads to succeed. And the state captain's time commitment is about 4 to 6 hours a week for the first 6 months. And then after that, about 2 to 3 hours a week. We do have a weekly state captains meeting. I will tell you, it's a pleasure to meet every week and get the updates and be encouraged. We've also, as it's kind of been alluded to here, that we've formed friendships and relationships with one another. So I love the weekly state captains meetings. We also have monthly meetings on Zoom for the congressional leads to come. It was mentioned by Mary Beth that they can ask questions to leadership during open office hours. And then we also do a study group for each of the training modules. So you can meet actually on Zoom and go through your training together as a community. So again, we hold everybody's hand and we lead them through and we empower them to be able to be successful.
Right. That's right. Very good summary, Kathy. I love it. And we are looking for state captains. These are the state captains we are needing right now. We do update this on our HAT page, so you can always check back and see, but we are needing people to step up in these states, which, you know, I think that's, what is it? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. I mean, we've got, you know, more than half covered. And so we're doing great, but we really do need, you guys said, especially Arizona. Come on, Arizona. There's
Yeah, we truly can't do this without state captains. That was when we came up with this idea to have a grassroots based effort in Congress. It was like, well, how are we going to possibly organize getting at least, our goal is to have at least one person cover every office. So that's 435 offices in the House and 100 offices in the Senate, 535. So that's at a minimum 535 people. It was like, well, Powell and I can't coordinate with
Yeah, Laura and I were doing a ton of meetings, but we were like, this is not working, you know.
Well, yeah, we can't meet with 535 offices, but then the next step is, okay, let's get at least 535 people involved with their office, but then we have to coordinate with those people.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, how can we do this? We need a state captain. And so, I mean, we literally couldn't do what we are doing and be making the progress that we've been making without state captains.
And it's fun being a state captain. Super fun. You get all the inside scoops and all the, you know, the nitty gritty details. So that's kind of fun too. So if you like the inside scoop, you should be.
You get to talk to Kathy. You get to talk to Kathy and me every week.
That's right.
So I like talking about our advocacy work as a process of deposits and withdrawals. So like, you know, what you do on the HAT team is you build those relationships. So what does that mean? That means you're depositing energy, and I have this little piggy bank, but you're depositing energy into your office. You're showing interest in the staffer themselves personally and professionally in their office. You're checking in periodically. You're maybe on their newsletter and you're mentioning, hey, I noticed that the office did this great initiative. It may not be related to homeopathy, but just wanted to thank you for your hard work. And then you're also going to educate them on this issue. They really need reliable sources. If they don't have a reliable source on the topic of homeopathy, they will end up parroting what the FDA says. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have already seen that when you see your offices like write letters. Like if you wrote a letter, they might send you a form letter response. And so I think that really you can tell which offices have a HAT member that's been educating them versus the ones that don't. And then there comes a time you filled all this little, you know, emotional piggy bank with your office, then you're going to make a withdrawal. Will you sign this letter like they did? I would say that letter that we were talking about, the bipartisan letter that we had 25 members of Congress sign, that I think 90% of the signatures came from relationships with HAT members. So it's a huge thing. Will you co-sponsor this bill? Will you, all right, you won't co-sponsor it. Will you support this bill? And then we even say like, maybe they're not even going to support the bill. Fine. Will you not go against the bill? You know, so there's different stages that you need to be realistic, and you'll figure out what you can ask your office and as you move forward on the team. And so you are part of a state team with a state captain. That's how it works. So you can also invite your local friends to do it with you. And oh, it says waitlist, dang it, but you should just go to homeopathychoice.org because it's not a waitlist right now. The HAT team is open and it closes October 8th. And we have, you know, that amazing training program, all the things that we've been talking about, we've kind of covered here. And then in case you're wondering, did you ladies want to kind of outline just briefly what their training program is like what to expect once they're in, like, what am I going to do? Like, what's that training program look like?
Yeah, so I kind of talked about it briefly earlier, but and Mary Ann touched on it too, or Mary Beth, right? Sorry, we have Mary Ann's and Mary Beth's. See, I can't keep track of 535 people. So we have it all laid out for you in module formats in the platform that we use. And so, you know, the first one, you'll get an introduction, and then you start doing some research on the legislator that you'll be working with. And then you start to prepare for your first meeting. And then you schedule that meeting. And then we have every spring, we have what's called Homeopathy on the Hill. And that's our annual advocacy event where new HAT members are meeting with their usually staff members. Sometimes the legislator is there on the Zoom meeting as well. You're meeting with them and you're talking about our issue. Every year we've had a little bit different of an ask. And then for those who have been on the HAT team, it's more of a, Paula always likes to use this dating analogy, but if you're brand new, it's like your first date. But if you've been on the HAT team for a while, I mean, you're getting serious. like Kathy, you don't need to do all the small talk subtleties. You just are like, it's like talking to an old friend. It gets to that point, at least for those who are doing it well. No, I'm just kidding. There are uncontrollable factors. I know we have some HAT members that are frustrated, like, oh, I've been doing this for a couple of years and I'm still not where Kathy is. But you know, we do what we can. And so, yeah, that's Homeopathy on the Hill. You meet with your staff member and
Matter like the day that we have that bill introduced and we're like, all right, guys, all pistons running, go after it. Those people who've maintained their relationships, even if they feel like, I don't know if I have a great relationship, like they are going to be like, okay, we know about this. All right. Well, we're going to, they're not going to just dismiss it. And that's huge.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
it can seem like they're ignoring you for some of these offices where they're not getting as many responses, but they're not. I can promise you, they're not fully ignoring you. They're seeing your notes. You're making those deposits like Paola said. And it's the last thing we want to do is have an office where they've never heard about this issue before. And then we're like, hey, will you say yes to this bill? No, we need people who have been there building those relationships.
Like asking someone to marry you on the first date. It's super weird. You can't do that. So we're trying to get you to the point where you ask them to marry you by signing onto the bill or, supporting. So it's a great, it totally works.
Yeah. I mean, as you can imagine with the topic of homeopathy, there's a lot of, there's misconceptions. There's a lot of education that has to be done. And that's what these HAT members have been doing. So that it becomes a familiar issue to them and one where, and now they've been hearing from, what was it? We've had over 500,000 constituents or messages just in a matter of a couple of years. It's like, it's becoming a familiar issue. We've shown that it's important to their constituency. And so to have, that HAT member there who they can go to and become their go-to resource on this topic is crucial, because otherwise their go-to resource is Google or the FDA or
And then just so you guys know what the time commitment is, we do want you to look at this page very seriously. We don't want people to sign up and drop out, and you know what I mean? Because it drains our team when people sign up and realize, oh, I guess I don't have 1 to 2 hours a week at the, like you really need to look at this seriously. And so the training for the HAT team is 1 to 2 hours a week. And then after you've completed the training, and that lasts a few months, right? You guys, I would say
6 months. Yeah.
6 months. Okay. And then more than a few months. So 6 months. Once you're done with that training, then you become an evergreen member of the HAT team. And that's where you're just maintaining your relationships. That is 1 to 2 hours a month. And we give you that range because some people just write their emails slowly, or we give you templates, but they're copy and pasting and really they work a little slower, but some people just zip right through it and have that relationship. And so it's, that's a very realistic numbers, 1 to 2 hours a week for a few months, several months. And then after you have that first appointment, after your first date, right, then it's 1 to 2 hours a month.
The training, I should also say about the training is that we've really tried to take into account different learning styles. We're all home educators, and the 3 of us here. And so we have written training, we have video, we do study groups. So you have live training and a chance to interact with us. We have recording. So we have different formats, and you don't have to do all of that. If you're, depending on what kind of learner you are, if you can just read something and soak it all in that way, then that's fine. But we offer, so whereas some people like to just take it all in, and so then, they might be more on the 2 hour side of things, but some people can really breeze through this pretty quickly.
Yep. And then finally, who can participate on Homeopathy on the Hill? That's our big event where everybody on the HAT team actually meets with their offices, and that's only the members of the HAT team. So that's the big culminating first date that we set up for you guys, right? It's a really exciting week. We make t-shirts for it, and it's all for the HAT team. And guys, I'm telling you, you are missing out if you do not make time for the HAT team. Not only are you missing out on a critical time in history where we need to defend our access to homeopathic medicines, but you are missing out on just this wonderful, exciting camaraderie that we experience. So Laura and Kathy, feel free to stop me if you want to talk about anything, because I'm just kind of zipping along here. We have, what's really interesting is that our offices, and Kathy, you can speak to this, they say to us, you are the experts. Have you heard that before, Kathy?
That's the goal, is to get there. And we've heard that.
Yep. I do. I get it again and again when I send my monthly updates. My staffers respond with gratitude and they thank me for keeping them updated. So I am their resource. I also just want to make the point, and you guys have both alluded to it, but we're very powerful because we are constituents. So even if Laura and Paula had the physical wherewithal to meet with 535 offices, they don't want to meet with Paula and Laura. They don't want to meet with people outside of their constituency in most cases. They want to meet with their own constituents. So that is why we need people in every single district, because those constituents are the ones who have the power and who have the influence with that office. They are maybe the only one in that district who has that kind of influence. So that is really important. So yeah, we're their resource and we're important to them because we are their constituents.
That's right. Yep. And so our Ask for Congress, Laura, did you want to talk about kind of our
Yeah, so we've had between 2018 and December 22, we were focused more on, like, because it was a draft guidance. Like, okay, we need to do our due diligence and try to work this out through the FDA. So we did 2 different citizen petitions during that time, which is not just like, okay, go out and get signatures from random people. It was actually putting forth, the second one was a how many page document with a bunch of appendices. It was actually putting forth like a regulation. This is how we are proposing to regulate homeopathic medicines appropriately. And then along with that, people were able to go on to regulations.gov and add a comment in support of that petition. So we did two of those in that time frame, and we really exercised all kind of options through what's called the Administrative Procedures Act when you're dealing with a federal agency, to try and change course. And we do feel like we really did hold off the guidance for that long and prevent even more actions being taken against various products, because it took a long time. 2017, that's 5 years before they finalized that guidance. But we also knew, okay, we don't want to be ignoring Congress during all of this. So we had the HAT team going. And so our asks looked a little different during that time period where we were really trying to work through the FDA. Like we would say, hey, can you reach out to the FDA and ask this particular question or something like that? Well, now the ship has sailed on, the guidance is final, and we are looking to pass legislation to protect our access to homeopathic medicines. And so that will be hopefully our ask for this coming spring, but if not this coming, it will be the following. But yes, that's our big goal, is to pass legislation.
And we're working our butts off for that. So,
yep.
And then this next one that we were talking was basically what Kathy was saying about
yep.
having involved is super important. A couple of the excuses or, people give, and I don't mean to be flippant about it. I know that there's scary ones that people are like, I'm not a good speaker. What would you say to that, Kathy? If someone says, I'm not a good speaker?
I think that makes you more relatable from the staffer. They're not looking for somebody who's polished, they see those kind of people all the time. I think what really impresses them is that we're regular people and we're just there because we genuinely believe in this issue. So use your notes. That's what I do. I just use my notes so I get the information across. I speak from my heart, and I just work the plan, and I've seen the results.
I always say Moses wasn't a good speaker too. He said I was slow in speech, but look at what he did. So I have a little Moses over there.
There you go.
All right. And Laura, what about my congressional rep is a stinker? I don't want to talk to him. He's stupid, or she's a stupid head. Like, what do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, you just never know. I'll never forget this one. We were on a call once and somebody was like, well, no way. If I have to talk to so-and-so, there's no way I'm getting anywhere with that person. And we were like, well, they just called the FDA on our behalf.
Like, who was that? Who's your representative? And they're like, oh, it's so-and-so. And we're like, well, they just picked up the phone and called FDA and support.
Yeah.
And they were like, what? And I'm like, don't judge a book by its cover. And you never know. Like, I remember when we were looking at some other issues that were going on during the COVID season, Laura and I are like, oh my gosh, they're totally supporting us. Like, even though they weren't on the right side of other topics necessarily, we were just like, okay, you never know. And it's all about, and we say this a lot, you guys, when you're trying to change policy, because that's what we have is a policy that FDA has. When you're trying to change policy, there's no room for politics. You just get to help them make this issue their issue. That is your job. And you're just being sincere, just being yourself. And then we've already kind of covered how long this will take, but during training, a couple of hours, 1 to 2 hours a week, depending on how quickly you go through it. Some people like going through everything. Like, we have it written, we have videos, and then we have all the question and answer sessions, but some people just read it. And I don't need to watch the video because I can zip right through this and I can read it and it makes sense. I'm a fast reader and digesting it, but we do want you to go through it carefully. We don't want you to rush through it, but you can zip through it if you're just a quick learner. I would not be able to do that, but some people might. So anyways, do you guys have any final thoughts before we close up today and finish our discussion? I'm going to check the Facebook group here.
Yeah. Go ahead, Laura. Then I wanted to make a comment on something Paola just said, but go ahead.
Yeah,
Laura.
me too. I was just thinking how, like, as far as, I know politics, it feels like in this climate, it feels like you're not going to get anywhere. But what's the alternative? I mean, what are we going to do? Say nothing and let the homeopathic industry just completely crumble? I mean, truly, this is our best chance at protecting our access to homeopathic medicines, is to pass legislation, because we tried working through the FDA, the courts. We don't rule it out, but that's a whole nother discussion on going through the courts. But yeah, as long as FDA has this interpretation out there that homeopathic medicines may not be legally marketed, I mean, that just brings on a flurry of issues that we talked about, and that we have no other avenue of changing that.
Absolutely. Can I just speak to the issue of just being busy? So all of us were busy. Our lives were full before this came to our doorstep. And so we realized how important this was. And we just decided we've got to fit this into our lives. So, I mean, we've had meetings where Paola's been on a ladder painting, and, she's getting her house painted while she's having a meeting. Laura's little girls are at our meetings just about every week. And I just think that's precious, because more is caught than taught. And there's just such a preciousness about her girls being able to see her mom do this important work. And I remember Laura shared one time that they were playing us. So they were playing, role playing and, make believe, and they were pretending they were us. What an amazing thing to model before your children. With my grandchildren, if I'm going over to watch the grandkids on a day where I have a state captain's meeting, I'll do the Zoom from my phone while I'm outside, watching them, or, bring my laptop or whatever. And I tell them what I'm doing. And they know. I'll say, remember why grandma's got so many meetings? And they say, oh yeah, because you have to save homeopathy. So it is something you just work into your life. And what a great thing to model for your family, to do what is right. And I know my family's very proud of me and the work that I've been doing. You're muted, Paula. Actually, you're both muted.
I was talking to a friend, Dr. Whitmont, and he was saying, he was just like, I get more done when I'm busy. When I'm not busy, I do nothing. When I'm busy, I get it all done. And I'm like, you're like in the zone. And I'm like, it is so true. Because when I go on vacation, like, it's amazing how unproductive I am. And when I have like a slow, but it's like when I've got all these things to do, then you're suddenly like you're in the zone and you're getting it done. And I will say too, like my kids have overheard a lot of what we're doing, and they will hear other political issues because we listen to politics. I wouldn't say enjoy that, but it interests us, my husband and I. And they will be like, oh my gosh. And I'm like seeing them react to other issues in the right way because they're listening about this issue. This has become like a template for them. Laura, did you want to?
Couldn't agree more. It's such an important work.
Yep. Yeah, there are like little, like I see Kathy Strong here. They're like little sponges. So cool that we teach them like that. It's true. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Anything else, Laura? We're good? Okay, well, tomorrow tune in at the same time because you guys are going to hear from Pat. I actually had a ton of fun with this interview. I love the Irish. They're so funny. And we had a great time talking and learning about homeopathy. We're going to reboot your farm tomorrow. I'm super excited about it because we have a cow outside that is very pregnant, and I'm very excited about a calf that'll be joining us pretty soon. Actually, speaking of multitasking, I was on a phone with Kathy planning for some work stuff, and we were loading my cow into the trailer for her to get, artificially inseminated because I wanted a special A2 calf. So anyways, just, you just get it done. So.
And my
All
dog
right.
had puppies yesterday. So
That's right. I was back up just in case another puppy came along. You just get it done.
Yep, you do. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow. Join the HAT team, homeopathychoice.org/hat. And go ahead and you ladies turn off your cameras. I'm going to just wrap things up over here on our presentation. Just a quick reminder who the winner of our raffle prize was. That was Pat Caulfield. Pat, go ahead and message us or send us an email at bearpack@homeopathychoice.org because you are the recipient of our day 4 raffle drawing. Please do, guys, take a moment and donate a little bit to us or join the Bear Pack. That's another great way to support us. You're donating $25 or more a month to us. And so we just are so incredibly thankful. Any amount we are thankful for. And then also, join the Homeopathy Action Team, open till October 8th, guys. It's a ride. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you tomorrow when I talk to Pat. Bye, everyone.